Dr. Ebony Stone, and this is the Black Woman in the Corner Office. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Black Woman in the Corner Office. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and I am excited as always to be here with you today. I have a very special guest. All of my guests are very special. I am joined today by someone who I promise by the time you leave here, you're going to feel like you've been old friends. When I met her, we had one conversation and I felt like we were old friends. So before I introduce her, what I'd like for you to do is what I always ask you to do. If you like what you hear, make sure you hit the like button down below, subscribe, and make sure you share this podcast with someone that can benefit from it. All right. All right. So let's get into it. Who am I interviewing today? Today, I am interviewing Wendy Batiste Johnson. And let me tell you just a little bit about her. As always, I'm going to read the bio because these bios are amazing. And then I'll introduce her kind of like the way I do, right? So Wendy is a former executive who boldly opted out of her corporate career to fully dive into her passion of travel, fashion, and wellness. Wendy founded United Black Mothers of America, a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2020, providing safe spaces for Black women and mothers to learn, be heard, and be well. Most recently, and after becoming an empty nester, Wendy founded Jagger Juliet, a luxury travel and wardrobe company, where she provides a personalized, curated service that combines luxury travel planning with wardrobe styling. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Ebony. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're going to get into all of this, y'all. Wendy is a girl after my own heart. Luxury travel, styling, wellness, all the things, right? That is why I left the conversation that I first had with Wendy just feeling like old friends. I felt like we were like kindred spirits, just kind of floating in different parts of the world, but focused on the same things. So Wendy, I just want to get right into it. I want to back up. I know we've had this conversation, but I think it would be so interesting to our listeners and our viewers to just kind of back up to the very beginning of your career and talk about how things started for you. If you want to go back to college or right after college, wherever you want to start, let's talk about how your career started.
Of course. And I just want to echo your sentiments. You and I connected immediately. And so I'm so pleased to have this conversation with you. Okay, well, let me go back some time. I attended college out east at Cornell University. And when I graduated, I had this very fierce, just independent minded nature about myself that I could conquer the world. And honestly, I think that's something you're a parent. We want all our children to step out into the world with that type of confidence. So I walked out with that type of confidence. I had entered the corporate space. And at that time, back then, I just had a lot of opportunities that were handed to me, or not handed to me per se, but they were.
Girl, you earned every one of those opportunities.
Well, you know what? You're right. I did earn them. And I just had my pick of the litter, so to speak. And so when I selected the company I was going to work for, I had these very high expectations. And unfortunately, I was very much disappointed in my first, my first, I guess you could say, entrance into a corporate space. I thought that my skills would be utilized differently. And so I went to work every day not wanting to be there. And that is just not what I came out of college expecting.
And it's so a horrible feeling. Like it makes it hard to get out the bed every day. You just don't want to be there.
It does. And, I think, I had this fearlessness about me where, I want to work, I wanted to be there, and I wasn't being utilized appropriately in my opinion. And so it kind of gave me uh the oomph to sort of, do something else. And I said, I want to see what else is out there for me. At that time, again, I was a bit more fearless, and I was not married. I was single. I was still living at home with my family, and so I was able to take these risks
Yes.
at the and I said, if I go out on a limb and do something entrepreneurial, I could come back into the corporate space, because that was the environment that we were in at that time. And
Yes.
so my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband,
Yeah,
had
he made it through the journey, huh?
yeah, he made it through the journey.
Yes.
He's been with me this entire ride.
Yeah.
He invited me to join him for lunch, actually, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He's an alum of University of Michigan. Go Blue!
Okay.
And he would, I would be remiss if I didn't do that for him. but
Right.
but he invited me to come out to Ann Arbor, and while he was at a business meeting, I was waiting for him so we could have lunch. I was walking around, and I was like, well, I had a little money in my pocket. I said, I want to spend some cash. I want to shop and see what's in the area. And unfortunately, I had a very difficult time doing that. And I thought to myself, where do young people shop in this beautiful, vibrant city?
So
And
before you go on, for those who are not familiar with Michigan and the University of Michigan in the area, Ann Arbor, University of Michigan is located in Ann Arbor, and it's pretty much college town,
it
right? That's
is.
pretty much what is in Ann Arbor. And so you're walking around this college town thinking, I can't find anywhere to shop.
Absolutely. And I not only did I want to shop, but I had the funds to shop, and I could not find a space to utilize them. I was just like, what is happening here? And
Like, I'm
I said,
trying to spend some money, y'all.
I'm trying to spend some money. Why can't I spend money?
Right.
And what happened from that experience was I essentially an entrepreneurial idea that turned into the foundation of my career. And I went home that evening, and I said, you know what? I am going to provide a place where the community and the university can shop in the city of Ann Arbor. I would love to be a one-stop shopping destination in Ann Arbor. I had
That's
always
amazing.
been, I'd always been the friend that, my friends would call when they needed shopping advice. So I knew I had a knack for it. I love clothes. A little fun fact: when I went to Cornell, I thought it was a lot closer to New York City than what it was. So I can't deny that might have played a role in me
In
in
your
me
college decision?
yeah, I was like, oh, New York City, of course. But,
Yes.
much to my surprise, it was a whole 5 hours away. Ithaca was not within it was not convenient for me to get to New York City.
Right.
Here nor there. I've just always had a quote unquote passion for fashion. And so it was right up my alley. And again, at that time in my life, I said, you know what? I'm going to take the risk. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I have my college degree, and I'll go back to work.
Yeah.
So I literally spent day and night writing a business plan. I shopped that business plan. I got a lot of doors slammed in my face. I mean, it was certainly not easy. And I specifically tell this part of my story because I want people to know that persistency and resilience is part of this story. Because
Yes.
had I listened to the first or the second or even the third no, I likely wouldn't be here speaking to you today.
Absolutely.
And
So, wait,
so,
how many
go ahead.
no's do you think you got?
Oh gosh. Um, Lots. I mean, I would say at least 8 or 9, which
Yes.
someone, I was 20, 21 years
It's
old.
hard.
That was really hard. And it
Yes.
was heartbreaking to hear that essentially I wasn't good enough to fulfill my dream. And
That's how it
so
feels for sure.
that's exactly how it felt to young me. And so there were lots of tears shed. I mean, I won't deny them, but I just kept going because there was something about this endeavor that would not leave me. It was something that was lingering. You know how you always say there's something on each shoulder, and it's this one kept tapping me. I mean, just kept tapping me day and night. And I was just like, you know what? I just have to try again. I have to try again. And then the last time I tried, there was this wonderful gentleman who was really honest with me. He said, "Listen, you're young, you're inexperienced, you might be a little green, you don't have that much money in the bank, even though I think you think you're rich." um, he's
Perspective, right? Perspective is
exactly
everything.
perspective. He says, there's something about you that I would love to give an opportunity to. And I said, wow, thank you. And that's the door that was open for me. And I took full advantage of it. And that's what I
I
tell
love
my
that.
children. I said, listen, you do not bypass open doors.
No.
Okay. And closed doors are closed for a reason.
Yep.
Okay. And I always say that, if something doesn't go right for me, I try not to sour on it. I try not to allow myself to sulk in the no. I oftentimes say thank you because there was a reason why that door was closed. So
Yes, there is there I believe that. I believe that oftentimes rejection is protection. And we just have to move on, and we have to learn that I learned, Wendy, that my story is not for everybody. It doesn't resonate with everybody, but there are people who need to hear it. So just like your business plan was not for everybody, but that one person. And I love that he was like, let me give you a little perspective. Like,
yes,
you don't have a lot of experience. You don't have the money you think you have, but I believe in you, right? So I'm sure that belief was great to hear, but also that perspective in the back of your mind helped you to understand what you needed moving forward.
100%. 100%. And so from that point forward, I would love to tell you that it was easy peasy, but there were more hurdles, as there should be, right?
Yes. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. And so, listen, I tackled each one of them the same way I tackled the initial one with getting in the door. I just kept going. And I often tell people, listen, for every hurdle I faced and the ones that took me all the way down, it was my duty to get back up.
Yes.
And so that is why I always tell people that my entrepreneurial venture is the foundation of the human I am today. Not
Mhm.
the professional, not the wife, not the mom, but the human I am today. Because sincerely, every lesson learned during that experience has allowed me to tackle the ongoing hurdles more effectively.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So tell us about getting into the space that you wanted to be in, and then tell our audience what people said to you when you first started, because I found that intriguing. What people would say.
Oh, yes. I would have folks tell me this business is not going to last. Uh, you won't be here past 6 months. This isn't what the community needs. And I mean, there was a lot of, I mean, one of the no's I actually received, this gentleman told me, I mean, he said a lot of unsavory things, but the one that stuck out the most was that I was just too green. And as a 21-year-old, honestly, that was a new statement for me to hear. I had never been told that before. And so I do remember at when my business celebrated 5 years, I actually sent him a green card and invited him to
Love
celebrate
it.
with us because,
Yes.
you know, I think what's been a driver for me my entire life is proving those people wrong. So
Yes.
I tell people all the time, if people aren't talking about you, I mean, then you must not be doing something right. Okay, so let them
Yes.
talk, let them be upset, let them say the negative things, because and allow that to be your driver, allow that to motivate you to keep going and to prove them wrong. And so for me, unintentionally, that has just always been how I've operated. When someone tells me I can't do something, it is my duty to prove them wrong.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, for every voice that is telling you something negative, there is someone else that is believing in you. Unfortunately, sometimes those negative voices are a lot louder, but there are people watching, there are people cheering. Wendy, I'm sure this has happened to you. I will get just a random message on social media or a text message or an email from someone that I had no idea was paying any attention to any of the things that I was doing, cheering me on, saying like, hey, for the last 2 years I've been watching this, for the last 6 months I've been seeing what you're doing and I absolutely love it. And you're like, really, where did that come from? So for all of the negative voices, there are always some positive voices. You just got to seek them out.
I was just having a conversation with someone about this recently about the perception that you don't know you have with others. And so, because you're often faced with the naysayers, there's so many people who are looking at the moves you're making and are inspired. And
Yeah.
that's the energy you want to hold on to.
Yes. 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 Okay, so tell us about the business in Ann Arbor and then what happened after that.
Okay, so the business in Ann Arbor, so, I mean, not to my surprise, but to many others, was very successful. I was very proud to make a profit in year three, which is really rare in retail. And I just built a community in that area, in that city. In fact, my little business became a staple for the economic growth in that corridor. If you go down Liberty today, where my business was, I mean, it is a completely different animal than what it was when my little business opened up there and there wasn't much going on. And so I'm really proud of what we built. And so we were there for a decade,
Okay.
very strong. But, fast forward 10 years, I was married and with two children. And
Yes.
so my life had shifted, and my priorities. And it's not to say that I did not place my career as a priority. It was just to say that they had shifted and now my family had become a priority. And
Yes.
so we were embarking on the 10-year, I had a 5 and 5 lease, and we were embarking on the last year of that second 5-year term. And my landlord at the time was asking if we wanted to renew. They wanted us to stay. And I was debating on what I was going to do because I had a lot of personal things happening in my life. And my daughter was 6 weeks premature. At the time, we were dealing with a health scare in my family. And I just knew that I needed to put my family first. So I abruptly closed my business. And a lot of people don't know this. So, here's the thing. I am I'm a very transparent person, but I'm also a very private person. So I'm not the one that's sharing my business on social media 24 hours a day. So,
Yes.
when I closed the business, I think people just thought, you know what, she's a mom, she's shifting. I had done some local interviews and, I just said, I'm just shifting gears, which was all true. But there's a lot of personal reasons why I made that decision. And I made that decision quite abruptly, so abruptly that I really didn't understand what was on the other side of that.
Mm. Yes. let's
Yeah.
sit there for a minute because I
Yeah.
think that so I made some changes, right? If you're watching this, you probably know my story. That very abruptly, I made changes as well. And I just want to sit there for a moment because, I made a post the other day, Wendy, about making changes and putting myself, my family, what was going on in our lives, healing, wellness, all of those things first. And it's interesting because sometimes people will say, well, I'm going to call it a gap on the resume, or where
Yes.
were you? And quite frankly, I don't know that that matters because, to your point, I can be transparent and talk to you about it, but it's okay for me to be private. The question that should be asked is, what is my skill set? Or
Hmm.
what do I bring to the table? Not what was I doing for the last year, if especially because now you've run a business for 10 years, right? And you're a seasoned professional. If I take a year off, if I take 2 years off, that's not what's important if I'm going to shop another business plan or look for another job or whatever that case may be. Why does that 1 year matter? Why
Yeah.
does it matter? I deserve some privacy, right? To care for me and my family.
100%. 100%. And we, as a society, need to be better positioned to allow grace to those parties, women and men, who
Yes.
oftentimes need wellness breaks.
Yes.
And ironically, I feel like everything just connects. My path is connected intentionally, and we'll
Yes.
get to, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But so I closed the business. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in October. It was in the month of October, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom," because you know what? I had friends who were stay-at-home moms, and it looked peachy, it looked great. It was just like I could do this too. Why not? And few weeks went by, few months went by, and it was not at all. I don't know what I expected it to be. Okay, I just know that it looked good on others.
Yes.
Again, perception. Okay,
Yep.
it looked good on others, but it was not feeling good on me.
Right.
And I love my children. I love my family.
Yes.
I love caring for my family. But I needed something for Wendy, for me.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes. I
so
remember. I remember looking at my daughter when she was like 3 months old and she's sitting in the carrier, and I remember looking at her and she's smiling at me and I'm smiling at her, and I'm like, well, what else? Right? Because I
yeah,
needed something for me. I love her, but I
yeah.
needed something for me. Yeah.
I feel that so deeply. I remember even saying, I know I offended quite a many people because I remember saying, "Well, what are we supposed to do? Should I be meeting you at the coffee shop? Should I be doing this?" Like I just didn't know, because I was
Right.
always that person who would drop my kid off and go back to work. I would be in my office. So for me, this was just this new normal that was just so abnormal that I was not myself.
Mm.
So I thankfully though, I tell you, you got to give it up for the village. I had a really strong village around me who was put in my life intentionally to pay attention to me, because I had one mom friend who basically, I think she noticed I was down, and she said, "Hey, I want you and your husband to come to this event with me and my husband." And I said, "Nah, I really don't know if I should go." She said, "I really want you guys to go. Please go. Please come." And so after, back and forth, I finally said, "Okay, I'll go." And my husband and I went to this event with this couple and other friends. And it was at that event that I met someone who changed the trajectory of my career.
Mm.
So I've told the story before, so I'll tell it again. I had met Bobby Taubman, who at the time, who is still the chairman and CEO of Taubman Company, the Taubman Company, which was a publicly traded REIT for retail real estate.
Yes.
And by happenstance, he just happened to, come up to our table and say hello. And we had like I don't know, a 6-minute conversation. And before you know it, he was asking me if I wanted to come in and interview for a job. He gave me his business card. And that friend who was with me, she came up to me. She said, "Did he just offer you a job?" And I said, "I think so." I don't know. I mean, I just, it was just like
I think so.
I think so. It was just this out of body experience because you know what? I had wanted to work. I wanted to get back to work, but I was so scared to say it out loud. I was
Yeah.
so scared to say it out loud. I was scared to even tell my husband, "Hey, I want to go back to work." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was just like, everyone is just so accustomed to this new normal, which was my abnormal.
Right.
And so,
Right.
and so this was my opportunity to sort of get back to me.
Yes.
So I took him up on that offer. Fast forward, went on a few interviews. I mean, didn't nothing was handed to me. I earned it.
Right.
and
Yes.
and before you knew it, I was back in corporate.
Okay.
But this time, sort of like on my terms. I
Yeah.
felt like I was in control of it. It was a space where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I think I shared this with you when you and I spoke privately. The initial hurdle with this specific position was that I was now a passenger where I had always been a driver. You know,
Yes.
I ran my own business for 10 years. I knew what to do. I had taken the falls, taken the hits. I knew how to recover. So now I had to go back into a space where someone else was the driver and I
Mhm.
had to politely be a passenger. So
Yeah.
that to me was a necessary pivot. It was a humbling pivot, in all
Mm.
honesty. And I've always believed that I am a forever student. I
Yes.
want to always learn. There's not going to be a day in this lifetime where I'm not still learning. So for me, it gave me an opportunity to just learn something else. And I was really happy to be in that space. And I started out as an assistant general manager at 12 Oaks Mall here in Novi. And then within 8 months, I was promoted to general manager at the Mall of Partridge Creek, where I spent 7.5 very successful years as the general manager there,
Mhm.
overseeing property operations, marketing, and all the efforts.
Yes.
Um, and it was it was amazing. I loved it. I loved building a team. I loved inspiring a team again. Um, and then I got to a point where I didn't feel I was being supported to do my best work anymore.
Okay.
And so what I've grown to value about myself personally is that I'm not someone who goes along to get along. I'm not someone who remains comfortable at the expense of others. Like I don't want to just be comfortable because it meets your needs.
Right.
So I love
That's
that.
not a way. That's not a way to live life. Right.
It's not, but you and I think we share that. But I think we'd be surprised to know that so many of our friends and family members believe that they have this obligation to just
Yes.
stay put.
Yes.
And so for me, when I didn't feel like something was working for me any longer, I felt like it was okay to move on. It was okay to say, I've done what I needed to do here, and now it's time to move on. And
Yes.
that's where I was in that space.
It's interesting. I want to draw a very clear distinction, right? There are people who you need to say, especially some younger folks, right? Like, hey, slow down. Like, you don't need a new job, a new business, a new space every 6 months. But there is a difference between that and like, hey, I spent 10 years here. And
Yes.
now it's no longer serving me. And possibly, there's someone else that can move into this space and have an amazing impact. And there's time for me to do something else, right? These are what I would call phases of our lives. And it's okay to move through phases of your lives. Now, listen, you don't need to, you're not getting in a different phase of life every 3 months. So if that's what you're
Exactly.
doing, slow down. But you can move through phases of your life. And just because something doesn't fit today doesn't mean it wasn't a great fit 10 years ago. It means what it needed to do has happened, and we can close this chapter and open a new chapter.
Hmm.
Yeah.
100%. And I like what you shared about making space for others. You
Yes.
know, it p- part of our jobs as leaders, and in your organization is to nurture the growth of others on your team.
Absolutely.
So, I had a boss once who asked me, "Do you want my job?" Like in a threatening manner, as in she felt like I was gunning for her position. And my response to that is, I don't want your job today, but you should want me to have your job someday.
Yes. Yes. I had a boss. So I've had those bosses,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
that's not cool. But I had a boss I'll never forget, and I've told this story. We were working on this massive project, and we were doing videos for it, and we needed to go into an all company meeting, and there was going to be this whole big production around it. And so as the project manager, I was working on some things and getting all of the recording time set up and everything. And so I asked her, like, hey, what does your schedule look like? Because we need to fit you in. We need to get these recordings. We need to do this. And she looked at me, and I will forever be grateful. And she said, well, why do you do my schedule? And I said, well, because we need you to record. And she was like, I've had the exposure that I need. It's time for you. And she put me in those spaces, and I will be forever grateful. And I think that
That's
is
a good
what
leader. That's a good
that's
leader.
what true leadership is about, right? And that is why I've moved on, but I still connect with her. I still keep in contact with her because that's what real leadership is about. It's not about, hey, you're coming for my job. It's like, no, I'm preparing you for the next phase while I'm being prepared for the next phase, right? I'm not going to sit here the whole time.
Mhm.
Somebody is going to need to sit in the seat, and I need to prepare somebody for it, right? I absolutely love that thought in leadership that you have to prepare people to, yeah, take my job or take my space, right? Somebody has to be prepared because I'm going to continue to grow and evolve. I'm going to continue to learn.
100%. I couldn't agree more. So, so I like to say I opted out of corporate.
Mhm.
And this was right before the pandemic, by the way. This was in May of 2019. And a little fun fact. So this was pre UVMA. Um, when I sent the email to my team, to my colleagues, because I had colleagues all over the country, who I admired and enjoyed working with, I told them that I was literally exiting for my own personal growth and wellness.
Yes.
And I will tell you, that was like a taboo word back then. That was just in
Hmm.
2019. People thought I was sick. They thought I was lying and I was going to another opportunity. I just didn't want to tell them. I mean, I even had a friend of mine say, I know you're doing something else. You're just not going to tell me yet. I know you are. Like, there's no way. You know? and I and I'm like, I'm really just taking a break. I need to take a break. Like,
Yes.
I really do. I'm taking the next 6 months to intentionally be with my family. And this time on my own terms. Because remember, I told you when I closed my boutique, I abruptly did it. So
Yeah.
I was kind of thrust into this home life that I was not mentally prepared for. This
Yes.
time, this was planning. I was
Yes.
ready to
Yes.
get into home life and have some downtime.
Right.
And it took people and I think it's just it's a cultural thing. It's a societal. cultural things. People don't believe that we have the right to pause, um, to, and or to rest is, the new
Yes,
term everyone's using.
yes,
Yeah, you do. If you can do it, you should do it. And by the way, I want to be clear. I had a partner in this. My husband was my partner in this decision. This was not a decision I made solely on my own because I was ready for a rest. This was a decision that I spoke at length with my husband about, um,
yes,
and we made a very thoughtful decision that this was the best move for our family and
yes,
for me.
Wendy. Oh my goodness. When I tell you, I am so glad that you said that, right? I told you guys, Wendy and I only had one conversation. We literally just, well, we met before and then we realized when we had the conversation that we had met briefly before. But I I too, right, had a partner and we had this conversation and I wrote the book called The Power of the Pause,
Right.
but the intentionality behind it is so important. I wish that in our society, I almost wish it was a requirement, right? I wish that someone said, hey, every 5 years, every 10 years, whatever it is, we need 6 months. We need, like, you will continue to get health benefits, you'll continue to be paid, but we need you to be healthy, right? If you're an entrepreneur, maybe you create some type of space where someone can stand in for you for 6 months, but we need those intentional pauses in our lives because we were not designed to
Hmm.
just go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for our entire lives. We weren't designed that way. God did not design us that way.
You're preaching to the choir. Absolutely. It's a tough pill for some to swallow, though. And also, I think we should acknowledge that some just don't have the capabilities to do this, which is why it is something that should be provided. Much
Yes,
to your credit, absolutely. Sabbaticals should be the norm, so
they
that
should be.
people can reset.
Yes.
So I had this opportunity to reset, and I actually had every intention of just taking time off until the end of the year, maybe until the January, kids got back to school, and then in February I was going to dive back in. And thankfully, I had a really supportive network. Like I said, the village has been really good to me. I'm not someone who, totes on who I know and um, who I speak to, because I really do value the relationships I have, and they're very sacred to me. But I will tell you, the people that I had in my corner, that I have in my corner, had my back. They were
Yes.
telling me, listen, Wendy, when you're ready to get back to work, let us know. Like,
Hmm.
let us know where you want to be, what you want to do. We will support you in any way we can.
Yes.
And that's just, I don't even know how to describe the feeling of that type of support. Every woman deserves that. Every human deserves that, but specifically women. Every
Yes.
woman deserves that type of support. And
Yes.
so essentially I was prepared to dive back in, and then guess what? The pandemic hit.
Yes.
So, but everything happens for a reason. Again,
Yes.
I'm like, this door is not opening purposefully.
Yes.
So the pandemic happens. My children are now at home because the schools are closed.
Yeah.
My husband is working remotely. We're all here. I had early loss from people I cared about
Mm.
during the
I'm
COVID
sorry.
pandemic. And so there was a lot of grief that was happening. And I needed that time. Again, I needed more time. And during
Yes.
during that time, there were women who were reaching out to me and sharing stories. Someone had been diagnosed with an aggressive stage of breast cancer. Someone else had suffered a stroke and was in their 40s. There
Mm.
was a lot of disproportionate health concerns happening in our community,
Yeah,
specifically to Black women. And
absolutely.
I felt a duty to do something. I didn't have, UBMA, like I tell people, was organically formed. It was one summer day. I said, you know what, we need to get out. We need to have some type of scenery. Let's meet at Belle Isle. I
Mhm.
text a bunch of women, and I can't tell you how many women I text, but there were a lot of them. And only 8 showed up, but that's all we needed at that time. 8
Yes.
women showed up. We walked on Belle Isle. I believe we walked 3 to 4 miles that day. We laughed, we connected. I mean, it was community, it was what we needed. And there was
Yes.
one woman that showed up to walk with us. She was a mom, a divorcee, had 2 adult children, and she was home alone. And,
Mm.
he told me she was not sure that she was even going to come to this walk, but she was so pleased she did because there was nothing I asked of her. She essentially just showed up and was able to be. And that
Yes.
to me resonated. I was just, we deserve spaces like that. We deserve safe, empowering spaces.
To
And so
just
that
be.
be,
To
yeah,
just be. Yes.
yeah. And that's kind of that's exactly how UBMA was formed.
Mm.
I knew that the the analogy we use, the house is burning in the neighborhood. Well, the house was burning for Black mothers at the time. This was
Yes.
post Ahmaud Arbery, um,
Yes.
George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. I mean, this
Yes.
was, we were grieving, and then we were grieving
Yes.
personal loss too. I mean, I was really difficult to find someone who had not personally been impacted by COVID. And
Absolutely.
so we needed community at that time, and specifically Black moms needed a big hug around them. And
Mm.
so how UBMA is framed is, it is entitled United Black Mothers of America because it is meant to support Black mothers. But it is
Yeah.
an inclusive organization where everyone is encouraged to support Black mothers because we
Yes.
deserve to be healthy and well like every other group of women.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So so that kind of happened. Just, so
Yeah.
my next move became, uh I had a nonprofit overnight. Um and then
Just from
I
a walk. Just from
just
one walk.
one walk. I had a nonprofit was, built overnight. And then I had a wonderful mentor in the president of Henry Ford Macomb Hospital at the time. And she had reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I hear you're walking with these women. Tell me more." And so I shared with her exactly what I just shared with you. And she says, "You know what? That's wonderful. And we want in. And
Mm.
how can we support you?" And so
Yes.
what I requested was that our organization have access to professional healthcare professionals who would educate our community on everything that has been plaguing women, but specifically Black women, and
Yes.
at large disproportionate rates. So we spoke about COVID at the time. We tackled breast cancer, diabetes, heart disease, which is the number one killer of all women, but we sit at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
Um, and my only request was that the physicians that spoke with us were Black women,
I love that.
because we deserved to also be in spaces of relatability.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what really pushed me to make that request was a conversation I had with another mom.
Mm.
So I had always had Black OBGYNs. I, you know, my mom always had them. My mom always told me, to have, um, you know, a, a Black doctor look after your lady parts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
I
was
love
just,
that.
listen, it was something that I grew up with. I didn't know any
Yeah.
different. I've been very
Right.
fortunate because clearly, um, we know that it's very difficult to find.
Very
Okay.
difficult. Yes.
And so, but I had always been very fortunate to have
Mhm.
wonderful, Black female OBGYNs.
Yes.
And I remember having a conversation with a mom through UVMA about how she had never had a physician of color.
Mm.
And I couldn't believe it. And she then went on to talk about, things she'd gone through and hurdles she'd had. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we
Yes.
need to provide access. And that's
Yes.
and that's how the request came about. So, I have had all types of physicians, male physicians, but I just found it alarming to speak with a woman of color who had never been served by a woman of color.
And you
So,
know what, Wendy? I bet she is in the majority, not the minority. I think about, so I love my OBGYN who just retired, was not
mhm,
a Black woman, but I am moving to Black women, a practice of Black women
mhm,
who I will be seeing. But I remember looking for a therapist,
mhm.
and just what you said was important to me. I needed a Black woman as my therapist because I did not want to have to explain what it meant to just be a Black woman. I needed the relatability, and I think that goes understated sometimes. You talked about needing to be, but then I need someone that understands what it's like just to be me, you know? Yeah.
Yes, yes, and I want to be clear because sometimes people will say what we say or listen to what we say and use it against us and deem it controversial.
Yes. It's not.
It's not, because it's more rare for us to be in spaces with people who look like us in the medical profession. So
Yes.
when we find someone who not only looks like us, but can speak to the similarities of how we're feeling,
Yes.
there is a safety in that we
Yes.
all deserve, the same safety that my dear white girlfriends find in their white female OBGYNs. And so
Absolutely.
it's okay for us to not only want that, but it's okay for us to need that too.
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad you said that. It is like give yourself permission to need what you need. It is okay. It's not a knock against anyone else in any space, right? When it comes to physicians, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to anything, right? And it does not mean, that there's some negativity someplace else. It's okay to need what you need, right? I
Exactly.
spoke about my physician my OBGYN oh goodness, I can't even tell you how many years. I know he delivered my children, right? And my daughter just turned 20.
Wow.
And I was going to him before that, and he retired. It's not a Black woman. However, he provided to me what I needed in that time, and I truly appreciate him. When he told me he was retiring, I actually teared up. That doesn't mean that I couldn't appreciate him, and it doesn't mean that now that I'm moving into another space that I can't say, "Hey, this is what I need now." It's okay
Exactly.
to need what you need. Yes.
Exactly. And so, yeah, so all of our UVMA health talks that we have facilitated both virtually and in person since 2020, and we're celebrating 5 years this year, have
Yes.
been facilitated by Black female health professionals, and I'm really proud of that. I mean, and
As you should be.
I'm very proud of that. So, in fact, our 5 year wellness health panel consists of 6 dynamic and inspiring Black female health professionals and thought leaders in our community right here in Detroit.
And I can't wait. I will be there. I'm so excited to be there.
Mhm.
Um, I would like to really quickly spend some time talking about who those not who those individuals will be. You can tell us who they'll be, but where that is and how people can join before we talk about Jagger Juliet, because I want to talk about that as well.
Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for for allowing me the opportunity to share the information about our event. So, UBMA, United Black Mothers of America, is celebrating 5 years. 5 years of providing safe spaces and safe, empowering spaces for Black moms in Metro Detroit and beyond, and also encouraging folks to put their health and well-being first. Um,
Congratulations on
Thank
5
you
years.
so much. I mean, honestly, I can't even believe it because it feels like these 5 years have just kind of sped right by us. But
I
you know,
always say there's pre-COVID time and
yes,
there's after COVID time. Like
yes,
pre-COVID,
yes.
after COVID, it's just like flying.
Oh my God, it's flying. But I will say that we're not profitable, we're not federally funded. We are really grassroots. So everything um, we have done with the support of donors in our community, which has been wonderful over the past 5 years. And we not only put on this wellness programming annually, but we also pour money back into the community. And so, just most recently, we partnered with Pathways Academy, which is a school in Detroit that serves teen moms who want to get their lives, get graduate and kickstart their lives. We gifted 19 graduating teen moms with $250 grocery gift cards
Yes.
because we know that groceries are expensive and they need to
Yes.
feed their families.
Yes.
So we were very proud to do that, and we were able to do that with our annual Heart Walkathon fundraiser that we host every year in March. So back to the event, we are coming together on Sunday, September 7th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Henry Ford Medical Center in Bloomfield Township. It is the facility that is off of Telegraph Road, beyond Square Lake. The address for everyone is 1961 South Telegraph Road. And Henry Ford is our partner. They've always been a supportive partner to UBMA. So we're super thrilled to have them host us this year. And we're welcoming 6 amazing panelists. This is like my dream team panel, okay?
Yes.
Um, we have Dr. Kimberly Stokes Mason, who is a psychotherapist. We have Dr. Rose Moten, who is a clinical psychologist and an author and a life coach, and she's also a dear friend of mine. We have Dr. Brittany Fuller, who, by the way, is like the biggest champion of UBMA. She has been speaking to our community for years. In fact, she is the reason that we even kickstarted our annual heart health walkathon because she is an interventional cardiologist at Henry Ford Health.
Mm.
And she told us at one of the virtual talks, if you just move your body 30 minutes per day consecutively, you lower your risk of heart disease, which is the number one killer of women, with us
Yes.
being at the top. And women took that to heart and literally started moving 30 minutes. So we championed that notion and said, you know what? Let's do a walkathon, and we're going
Yes.
to walk for 2 consecutive months, 30 minutes consecutively each day. And
Yes.
women do it. And I
Yes.
promise you, it's these little, efforts that make a difference. And I always tell my kids too, do your little small part in the world. And I promise you, you will move the needle on making positive change in our world. So,
Absolutely.
so Dr. Brittany Fuller, so happy to have her. Dr. Monique Swain, who is a board certified OBGYN with Henry Ford Health, phenomenal. Gerald Perry Mason, who is a financial advisor, an author and a public speaker. She's going to speak to us about financial stability. And
Yes.
Dr. Cheryl Gibson Fountain, another amazing board certified OBGYN. So we're essentially targeting 4 pillars that disproportionately impact Black women: heart health,
Yes.
maternal health, financial stability, and mental health.
Yes.
And
I am
so,
so glad that you added the financial component because if it ain't right, you get stressed and it impacts the physical and the mental, right?
that's right. That's right. So we're just really excited. Oh, and you can register for this event on our website, actually. So we have an evite that has gone out, but you can go to our website, unitedblackmothersofamerica.org, and you can register there. And we are asking for a $50 entry fee donation. 100% of the donation goes to our future programming. Like I mentioned before, we are grassroots. All of the money just gets poured back into us, pouring back to you.
Yes, love it. So please, please, please come hang out with, I'm gonna say come hang out with us, right? Because I'll be there. So come hang out with us on Sunday. Looking forward to the panelists and looking forward to hanging out with just some amazing Black women as we care for ourselves.
Listen, we deserve
Yeah.
to be in community together. We deserve this. And it's also, I want to say this one little piece too. It is very rare to get this kind of time with these types of health professionals. I'm just saying,
All
it's
in one
rare.
place, all in one
Yes.
place. Absolutely, absolutely. Like this I'm bringing my daughter. I'm taking my mom, so there'll be three generations of us there. I am. My aunt is going, and before this airs and before we head out, I'm gonna talk to my mother-in-law about it as well because I just think it is so important for us to be in community and see what that's like.
Yep.
So
I agree.
before we get out of here, we haven't talked about Jagger Juliet, and I'm so excited about Jagger Juliet because when we talked, I told you I am going to be a client. I'm already figuring out where I want to go, what I want to do. So tell us about Jagger Juliet, how that came about, and what you provide.
Okay, so Jagger Juliet was founded this year. As you mentioned in my intro, I am a new empty nester. Both of my kids are out of the house. My son is in college, and my daughter is actually in high school at an arts boarding school. So this was a new territory for me this year, but it gave me full opportunity to again dive back into Wendy. And um, what I've always loved, of course, is fashion and style. I've styled some of my friends over the years, and I love to travel. My husband and I love to travel together, and I love to travel with my girlfriends. I actually just curated a girlfriends trip in this past January with my best friends from college. And so one of my friends were actually said to me, you should do this for a living. I mean, we just literally showed up. You had everything already planned. And so I said, you know what? You're not the first person to share this with me because I've curated other trips. I did a 3-week trip for my husband and I and a group to Italy a few years ago for our 20-year wedding anniversary. So I do have a knack for doing this, and so I decided why not. And again, that fearlessness came back, and so Jagger Juliet essentially is a luxury travel and wardrobe company where I design specialized curated experiences for you, for your husband, for your family. I just had a college student as my client who wanted
Yes.
me to curate an entire wardrobe for her in her sophomore year of college because she was having a difficult time, putting pieces together. And her mom is saying to me, she's just buying all this clothes and she doesn't know what to do with it. So it was my pleasure to help her understand how she can buy a certain set of items and interchange them and wear them together so that you don't seem like you're wearing the same clothes every day.
Oh, I
So
love that.
so it's something I love to do. My husband even said to me, he says, you just are so happy. You're smiling all the time. And I say, you know what? I think I found my way back to that space when I was in my 20s, when I opened up my
Yes.
boutique.
Yes.
I am back in my safe space of professionalism. This is where I thrive. And I'm just happy. I mean, I did a trip for a girlfriend who went to Spain, someone who went to New York, San Francisco, Punta Cana. I mean, it's just happening. And it's, again, I believe in serendipitous moments. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe this is my time to thrive. And UBMA is my baby. It's always going to be my passion project. And like I mentioned to you, it is my check in with myself for my wellness so I can remain healthy for me and my family. I always tell the moms at UBMA, you got to put your oxygen mask on yourself first
Yeah,
before you can help
absolutely.
anyone else. And so that oxygen mask is what led me to Jagger Juliet. And Jagger Juliet is named after my two children. Jagger is my son's middle name, and Juliet is my daughter's middle name. And the reason I selected them as the namesake is because honestly, they are my inspiration. They are the reason why I keep going. And I
Yes.
want them to know that. And I also want to be reminded of that 20 something little, young woman who was
Yeah.
told she was too green
Yeah.
to fulfill her dreams.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, listen, let me tell you how I just had a conversation. So let's talk about how people say we got to get this trip out the group chat, right? I have my business besties and I have been trying to plan a trip now. This might be going on year 3, and it's time to get the trip out the group chat. And so yesterday it was like, hey, maybe we should try for 2026 to do Martha's Vineyard. And I was like, that might be nice.
I might be
So,
on the figure with you.
yes. So maybe Jagger Juliet can help us with our Martha's Vineyard exploration, right? Because
Would
maybe
love
we
to.
can try that. I love that. Where so Jagger Juliet has a launch coming
Website.
up. Is that correct?
Yes, we just launched a website, so you can sign up for our mailing list at jaggerjuliet.com. Very simple. And then you can follow me on Instagram. It's Jagger Juliet Co. On Instagram. And we're planning a launch event in October where I'm hoping to, essentially roll out everything and let everyone know what's happening. And I'm excited about that. That's in the planning stage right now.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. Okay, so listen, I think we have hit on a number of things, and I'm just gonna tell y'all, me and Wendy could probably talk for hours, which is crazy. But I know we got to get out of here. So, and maybe we'll have you back one day, Wendy. Maybe you can come on back and we can
I
talk
would
about some
love
other
to.
things.
I appreciate you so much.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I appreciate you as well. So before we get out of here, though, I do want to ask you what I ask all of my guests, and so you knew it was coming, right? We have talked about so much. Like your life has been so rich and so full of adventures and different journeys and different phases. If someone said, Wendy, we just want to make a movie of your life, which quite frankly is not too far fetched. We want to make a movie of your life. What would you say the title should be? And do you know who would play Wendy in the movie?
Yeah, so I did think about this, a little bit. And there's been a phrase I've been saying for the past year since my kids stepped into, their respective new chapters. And as I'm stepping into mine. And remember, I shared earlier that I was always afraid to say what I was say it out loud, even though I was never afraid to do it, just maybe afraid to say it. So for me, evolving out loud, I
Mm,
think I think that it's really important for women specifically to not only evolve fearlessly, not be afraid to pivot, but to do it out loud because you want to be able to be placed in a position to inspire someone else to do it. And I do think perception is everything. And I know that there are people out there who are watching my journey and who are inspired to maybe step outside their comfort zone and do something that they may have not traditionally done. And so, Evolving Out Loud would be the name of my movie. And you know what? I would love to have Kerry Washington play me. And the reason that is because I find her to be someone who has also pivoted in her
mm,
career and also stayed very socially active. So many know me as a very, socially responsible person. And I am very much involved in ensuring that we create and maintain a world that our children can be safe, healthy, and thriving. And so I really admire her for her voice and using her voice for good. And so I could totally see her playing me.
I love that. So, Carrie, if you're listening, there might be a movie coming, right? Evolving Out Loud, and we might need you to play Miss Wendy in that movie. So, Wendy, listen, as always, I have absolutely enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate you being here. And for our listeners and our viewers, I just want to say if you take one thing away from this conversation, make sure you remember that you deserve to need what you need. You deserve to just be. You deserve to go on the journeys that your life needs to take. So, with that being said, we're going to get out of here, you guys. Until I see you next Tuesday, remember, keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do. And we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.